Yeah, that's me. I'm a noob. Well, that's another term for novice in photography, yeah, it is. When I started this project, I knew nothing about photography. I still kind of feel that way right now. My journey begins with research and purchase. Me just being plain folk, I've only ever owned a point-and-shoot camera. I've never owned an SLR. Well, take that back. My mom bought me one back in 2003, but it wasn't digital and it still used that old 35mm film. It was really hard to learn photography that way since feedback wasn't so instantaneous. Well, back to the research part. So in order to learn the craft, I needed to buy the artifact, or the gear. I'd never purchased an SLR before, and it was quite a confusing place. When you got to the website, there were tons of new vocab terms. So I enlisted the help of these guys, a couple of my friends who are what you call pro photographers. I mean, look at their stuff. These were experts who, as Laban Wenger say, knew the language of photography. I mean, look at these websites. Jay Saveron, good friend of mine, is a great photographer of models and good with shooting in low light scenarios. While Jacob, he's another friend of mine, enjoys bright lights and has a really great technique when dealing with bright light situations such as sunlight. Oh, he's also a celebrity photographer. That guy right there, that's Bruno Mars. I spent hours talking to both of them about all this stuff. And Jacob, who was once a high school science teacher, went through the physics of optic and light for me. These guys formed my small community of practice. So this is what I got, my Canon 60D. Pretty cool camera. They taught me 3 things to know before making a purchase. Number 1, take a look at the camera body. They come and go. Not the most important purchase, yet get something with high number of autofocus points, high megapixels, and maybe good enough build for your shooting. Second thing was the lens. Again, based on what you want to shoot. I really didn't know what to shoot at the time, so they recommended a good walk-around telephoto lens that went from 18mm to 135mm. And lastly, they recommended a Canon. They were both Canon fanboys, because of the great Q feature or quick manual adjustment of all the 60D functions. There it is! The 60D! See that? Got the lens, it comes with an 18 to 135 telephoto lens. Some cables, a strap, charger, camera body. Good. That was actually pretty good. Finally, with the practitioner's artifact in hand, it was just off to shoot pictures and explore every function of this camera. There were tons of settings. The mode of the camera is controlled by the mode control dial, and the experts recommended I start with the green mode. Green is fully auto. Basically takes your standard point-and-shoot camera. They told me it's important to get a feel for the camera in your hand first. Full auto was super easy to use. It took great pictures out of the gate. Just point and shoot and the camera did the rest. The camera's 18 megapixel resolutions was great as they made the most crisp photos I'd ever seen. But I had to graduate to the real use of an SLR, and that was full manual. So with that goal in mind and willing to delve in deeper and increase my peripheral participation gradually through guided instruction, I asked the gents to get me to full manual. Full manual is the playing field of the old timers. It's representative of those who have been in this community of practice for some time as fuller participants, no longer in the periphery. Even some pros don't even use full manual exclusively. But there's a lot to handle and think about in full manual. The f-stop, the amount of light that goes into the camera via the size of the aperture. The shutter speed, how quickly the shutter opens and closes to receive light. The longer it's open, the longer the exposure. And lastly, the ISO speed, how quickly the film, in this case the digital sensor, burns the image right into it. Playing with these settings to get the perfect shot, especially for a novice, is a little too much to juggle. So gradually, in what I perceive to be my zone of proximal development, they scaffolded activities to get me to experience the right feel of these functions. Fortunately, they were already built into the camera in 2 separate modes. AV mode, which is shutter priority auto. The shutter settings are automatically set, and all you have to do is set the aperture and the ISO. And the second mode, TV mode, was the aperture priority mode. It's automatically set, and again, all you need to set is the shutter and the ISO speed. Seems like a lot less to juggle, and maybe if I master this, I can roll with the big dogs. Maybe. So for the last few months, I've been learning how to shoot with various levels of manual. I've learned a lot about how light hits the sensor to give me the photo I need. Photography, I'm learning, is both a science and an art. But the art of feeling what it is you want to convey to the beholder, that takes a lot more time. Each function affects any one of the variables we looked at here, and on your image. The learning continues now on my own, continuing to experiment with lighting and images and different subjects. I'm already exploring full manual, and my pictures are becoming more and more vibrant. Each time I take a set of photos, I work with my small community practice, Jacob, Jameson, and others, to find out how I can make it even more eye-popping. And I bet, with a little more time and practice, maybe I'll be an expert, or maybe an old-timer, or as I like to call it, badass photographer.